Welcome to Pause Vibe Podcast, a podcast for HIV positive people, their friends, family and allies. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Vader, we are back for another episode of the Pause Vibe Podcast.
Wow, straight in, no kissing.
Yeah.
Here we are. Hi, Robbie.
How
It's
are
good
you?
to be back. We had a little break there. We've been doing an awful lot behind the scenes, it's fair to say.
I am exhausted just talking to you and all the work you have been doing with Adrian as well. I just want to say congratulations.
Thank
So, you know,
you.
this World AIDS Day is not just a day, it's a whole weekend shebang, a whole festival, the world first. And I just want to say, with the resources we have and the time that we have, everything that you have been doing, it's just truly incredible. And thank you.
My
Really,
pleasure,
thank you.
my pleasure. Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't do it without you. We're having a festival, folks, a World AIDS Day festival. I think possibly the first of its kind in the world. We've looked into it and it seems to be so. So when you start to see them in other cities around the world, remember that just like our podcast, the first of its kind in the world, we are changing the game for people living with HIV.
And it just gives you an insight into Veda's mind, to be honest. Let's not make a day, let's make a whole weekend about it, because it's so important to celebrate what it is to live with HIV, to show our humanity and to get community involvement, but also to protest of everything we need to do because there's still huge inequities, and obviously to commemorate as well. And this is why this is our World AIDS Day special episode.
Yes, because our festival is going to start with a ceremony called Friends Remembering Friends, which is hosted by our guests today, who are the quilt group from the Rialto Community Centre, St. Andrews. And here is the founder of the quilt group. It's Terry.
Welcome, Terry. Welcome back.
Great to be here. You know, I love this. So if you want me to talk about the quilt group or what has happened in the past, memory is so important. Never forgetting is so important. And we'd all lost so many people. I mean, you lose count. So let's not forget them. And let no one ever forget them. So for quilting, we started 30 years ago. We work consistently on remembering the people who passed, who we loved. So we really set it up for a memorial, and that's what it still is. But what really touches me right now about the quilt is when we're sewing on it, there were lots and lots of people who sewed with us, who stitched into those quilts. So their hands and their stitches are still there. So I find sometimes when I put my hands on those quilts, they're still there. So to me, they're very special. They really are. And so Friends Remembering Friends is a time when we reflect on what happened. There's no ever why it happened, because we'll never be able to answer it. We will never be able to answer why. We can't, and we can't go down that road. So, but let's remember and let's celebrate the people we lost.
Quilt really is a stitch in time, isn't it?
It's a stitch in
It's a
time.
stitch in time.
Yeah.
Every time I see a patch in the quilt, it always gives me an insight. It's a tiny insight into that person's life, but also an insight into the love that person who stitched the patch. And I just think it's just a momentary thing, you know, it's just a snapshot of someone's life. But you get to, in all the decades you've been doing this, know the people who've stitched, maybe know the people who have passed. Is there any kind of real standout moments or kind of things in the patches that have really, I know all of them have, but like really that has like stood with you through time?
Yeah, I think when some of the people who worked with us were very ill. So every time we met, it was, is this going to be the last time that they're going to stitch? And you couldn't go down that road. You were trying not to go down. You were trying not to tap into that and look at the person and think, are they going to be here the next time or not? So I even still find that very emotional, because it was almost like you were preparing yourself, but yet you couldn't. So yeah, there were a good few people who did that with us. And even now, like thinking back on it, and even, it touches me very deeply, because there was no way of saying goodbye to them. We couldn't sit around, this could be your last. You can't do that. Yeah. But there was always that thing hanging over us. Is this your last time you're going to be here? Are these the last stitches you're going to, is this the last cup of coffee or the laugh we're going to have together? So yeah.
Living in the moment, Terry. One of the things that you told me that that I'd never heard or realised before was that oftentimes the patches that were brought for the quilt were actually made in secret, and the people who made the patches didn't come and attach them to the quilt, didn't get to share the community of the quilt group directly or the support. It makes me very emotional even just to say it. I think that's heartbreakingly sad, but also so amazing that you guys could do that, could bring them the materials to their home and sit and sew with them, and that they still got to pay tribute to the family they had lost.
Absolutely, because when we set it up, we said that if you don't want to walk in, because some people don't want to walk in and be identified, there was stigma, there still is. They were afraid of that. So we said to them, listen, we can supply the goods, we can give you the materials, you can do what you want, or you can commission us to do it for you. But a lot of people, yes, they worked inside. Of course they worked in secret. Of course they did. They didn't want to be identified with it. And I understood that. And as you say, I can get the emotion of that. I get the emotion of that as well, because people we were there and we were willing to do it for them, but we really wanted them to do it for themselves. Yeah. But to empower them, that was the best way we could think of. Go to their house, give them the material, and then guide them through whatever they wanted. And then a lot of other people brought their beloved possession in to be sewed onto. Wow. And they're very special as well.
Oh, I can imagine, right? The value, the sentimental value of what you want to leave behind of yourself. I couldn't even imagine.
No.
And I think, especially in the 80s and 90s, maybe you can transport us back in that time again, Terry. And I also welcome everyone to listen to the podcast we've done before about the AIDS quilt. The stigma was so high, and the fact that people had to make their own quilt in a closet, essentially. In a world where people try to dehumanize us as people living with HIV, thinking us of less, what the quilt is, and it might seem like a small thing, but it's like, well, here's my humanity. Here's the teddy bear that I helped me go to sleep when I was younger. Here's the blanket of maybe my child that is so dear to me. That's a very human thing. And although society tried to tell us we're not human, we're like, well, this quilt is one way I can show the world how human I am. Can you bring us back to the 80s and 90s about what it was like for people?
Brutal. That's the one word, brutal. Because why did it ever happen? Other people were dying from different diseases, which is awful, and I'm not underpinning or underplaying that. But if somebody was sick, why were they treated differently? Yeah. Everyone who was ill with any disease has to be treated the same. They have to be looked after the same, cared for the same. That didn't happen. People had, and I know people don't believe this, the tray of food put on the ground and slid to their bed. I mean, how inhumane is that? I got so much stick just because I was out collecting, shaking a box for World AIDS Day, and people gave me the most awful, they said awful things to me. I remember one of my worst was I was at the school gate once and I had a red ribbon on me, and one walked up to me, "Have you AIDS?" And I just said, "Could you just go away, please?" Yeah. And read. But it was awful. It was beyond. To have your beloved dying in the most awful. A death from AIDS then was really terrible. And for people to be ignoring you, ostracising you, then it got to the whole burial thing and the body bags, and then you had at the memorial services or at the funeral services, I had people coming to me saying, "Will you play this music and will you represent me?" Because the partners were staying at the back, or they weren't. Now, if you've lost someone you loved, and we all have, how would you feel if you were left out of the funeral or the memorial? And that's what happened. And it happened everywhere. Everywhere. All places. It wasn't in one part or the other. It was right across the board. I experienced that in different communities in Dublin, from your posh south side, I shouldn't even say that, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. To the inner city, people were so ostracised.
It just shows you what dehumanization can actually do to people. If families would so readily do that to people, loved ones, it's just so heartbreaking. It really is. And I hope to God that's not happening these days. And if it is, tell me and we'll go and cause more, because that should never happen again. And I think you're right, Terry. People should be cared and loved. And actually, I'd go with that a little bit forward and say loved more and hugged more and shown more kindness, because they really need it during these really, really hard times. But on the flip side of this, and I'm going to say it because the moms, I'm going to call us all, we all met and we all had a great laugh. You know, so community, there's a real power in community. So how did you see things change when people joined quilt group throughout the years?
Well, when people came in, obviously, as I said, coming into where we were meeting was like people saw them coming in. So their statement was, I'm coming through the door, I want to be part of that. So that it's in itself is a healing thing to even do that. But what we did then when we all sat around together, we sort of set it up, and I remember talking to them at the time and saying, listen, there'll be weeks when we don't want to sew. There'll be weeks when we just want to cry. There'll be weeks when we want to laugh. And that's exactly what we do. And that's why we've been running so long, because nobody's under pressure to do anything. They don't have to sew. They can cry if they want to, or they can laugh. And we have had a lot of laughs as well.
Well, I came in last week and we weren't sewing. I pop by sometimes for a laugh, and when there's no quilt and no sewing materials, that means the tea is hot. Like, the conversation is good. Phyllis is spilling something juicy. So yeah, it's kind of funny when it's like the Emperor's New Quilt.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of it, and then people feel safe in that group because they know if they're having a day when it's awful or whatever, they can just come, they can sit, they can drink tea or whatever they want, and they can be listened to. It's also a closed group, so it's all confidential. So people know that. But we have had lots of laughs. We have, yes.
What do you think, Terry, that in the future, what do you think should happen with the quilts?
Okay, well, we're now, because we've been doing for so long, and we did lose a lot of them due to a huge oversight, but that's a different story for a different day. We're looking at our next quilt, which will be called Moving On. So it's not that we'd shut the group down, but we talk about what does moving on mean to us? What are we going to do with this quilt that we call Moving On? What is it going to represent? Is it going to represent a complete, like, yeah, it's all over? Or is it, and I'm saying that with tongue in cheek, or are they going to say things like, moving on to remember in a different way? Or what can we do that might be different? Or what will be healing? Because there's still stigma. And as long as that's there, do you know, are we going to ignore that? No. Are we going to say, oh yeah, it's great, we're moving on? Oh yeah, fantastic. No, we're not. We have to acknowledge what still is happening. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and there's still a hell of a lot of stigma, let's be honest. We might be in our bubble. Yeah. And it's such a blessing to be a person who's out about their HIV status. I think it's, for your mental health, the very best thing that you can do. However, it's a privilege.
It is a privilege.
Yeah. And it's not how most people living with HIV live.
Yeah. Now, Terry, that's the last question because we've more fabulous people to talk to. And I just really want to thank you for all the work you've been doing throughout the decades. It's a real testament to the community and just everything you've been doing for us. On ACET's website, which is your ACET.ie. Is that AIDS Care Education and Training? Yeah. Amazing work you do with faith-based communities, people who inject drugs, young people. Really, really love all the work you've done throughout the years. Big shout out to you and Richard Carson. As you go on the website, it says, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this for maybe advice for people who are listening. It says, actually I'm going to butcher this, but it said something along the lines of, you showed me love without trying to fix me, and that's what saved me. And it stopped me in my tracks when I read that. Do you want to just kind of explain what that means and how this can help people who might know people living with HIV?
Absolutely. Yeah, that came out. We produced a little booklet about, must have been for the 20th maybe anniversary of ACET, something like that, called Drinking from the Same Cup. Because if we all remember, oh, you better not drink from that cup, right? And we interviewed people who we'd worked with, you know, totally, you know, they weren't given names, it was confidential. And one of the people we worked with said that to us. Because that's the thing we never did. We rocked up to someone's door, and wherever they were at, we accepted them for where they were at. And we didn't try to fix them, and we still don't, and we won't. Why would we? Sure, why would we do that? We accept people for where they're at today. That might be different tomorrow. We're still accepting them and working with people where they're at.
You're dead right, Terry, because there's no fixing this, I tell you. So you might as well just love me as I am. But thank you. It's a
Not
real
at all.
testament to
Warts
you, your
and all,
philosophy.
Terry.
Warts and all, quite literally.
I'm not going there.
Well, thank you so
Not
much,
at all.
Terry. I can imagine you being on the Pos Vibe for many more years to come, so thank you.
It's time for another guest.
It's time for another
Thank you,
guest.
guys.
Thank you.
Terry.
Welcome to the Pos Vibe podcast, Phyllis. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. As I was saying beforehand, you're all chit-chatting, having a good old laugh. And I heard this is what happens in the quilt group all the time from Terry.
It does.
And you've been with the quilt group for quite a while. Do you want to kind of talk about how you
Um,
started with the quilt group?
When they started, I was just after burying family members through drug addiction, and I knew the leader, Tony McCarthy, up in St Andrews. Yeah, so I went up to Tony looking for counselling, and as Tony is always busy, so I noticed Terry and the rest of the girls and some lads down at the back of the hall, and I just went down and asked them what were they doing. So they explained to me that they were going to start a memorial quilt for all the people who had died from drugs. So I was a sewing machinist at the time, so I asked if they need any equipment, any material or anything, which I came back the next week, where I left it in the job for Terry, and came back again, and they were there, so I went up. So eventually I had this overwhelming feeling, just this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving up my job and going voluntary in St Andrews. I joined the quilt group. There was a lot of people in it, and as Terry explained earlier, there was a lot of stigma around anyone that had anyone on drugs or had HIV or anything. So a lot of the women would have been your grandmother's era, that my business is my business and it's no one else's business. Also the shame and the stigma that they felt. So every time they were meeting, like, be all looking around, is it, what am I doing out there? Eventually, we noticed that the growth in them, they realising that everyone was in the room for the one thing, that someone has been affected by addiction in some way, whether it be a sibling, whether it be son, daughter, mother, father. And I looked at the growth of them women in that. There's one special woman, a lot of them has passed now, but there was one special woman, and came in, and she was bitter at the world. Yeah. Bitter at the world. Because she only had one child, her son, and he had died. Although he was married and had kids, and then he had a partner who had more kids. I've never seen one child given so many grandkids and everything to a woman. But just looking at the growth of that woman, going from this woman that was really, really bitter at the world over her child, to the loving, most caring woman you ever came across. Even when she was dying and we went up to see her, smile on her face. She was at peace. She was at peace.
She found peace and she found community.
She found community. Yes, like Terry was saying, like, people had come in and someone wouldn't be associated with her. But I remember one incident, we were all out collecting for World AIDS Day, and we had a quilt up there, and we had some of us used to have the kids with us. They were our quilt babies, we used to call them. And I remember this woman up in the shopping centre coming over and literally hating us because her daughter had died, but her friends had come over and we didn't know. And it was right in the middle of the quilt, and we had to end up taking that out. So we always made it a point that if someone wanted something done, we had a book and we had to have their permission on it.
Yeah.
Permission on it. So I'm still there. I've retired, but I still come to the quilt group. As you know, it's the longest group going. I love it.
Uh-huh.
I love it. I do. As stated, we've had great laughs. We've cried together. We've argued, bitched at each other.
That's community, right?
Bitched at each other. You know, someone not liking her and go, and you'd get that all the time.
Yeah.
But they were beautiful ladies. They were beautiful ladies. We have got a quilt. It's called the Quilt of Hope, and just all symbols on it. And forward, just hands on it. 2 of the women's hands on it is 2 of them that have passed. So we treasure that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. One of the ways that you and I connected was I mentioned my grandmother, and you just said, you know, my grandmother's generation, and that resonated with me again, that we've spoken about my grandmother. My grandmother had a shop in Capel Street, a couple of doors up from Panty Bar, called the Apple Boutique. My grandmother Nora, incredible woman, and you were one of her customers.
I bought all my stuff in the Apple Boutique. His
Uh-huh.
grandmother was a lady, and if she didn't have it for me that week, she'd say, wait for a couple of weeks, Phyllis, I'll have it for you. And she was fabulous with her hands. And she was brilliant.
She was so talented.
Oh, she was so talented.
And
she
you showed me a photograph. I used to get babysitted by my granny. I would sit under the rails, like literally under the clothes on the ground. And you showed me this photograph of you. And I absolutely know I saw you in that shop when I was a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
Your hair ironed straight, your big platform, open toe, sandals, your flares. I was like...
the height of fashion.
She used to do the 2-tone suits.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, she was really gifted. But also, my grandmother, unbeknownst to me until recently, was caring for my cousin Ivana, who was dying of AIDS-related illness. In 1985, she passed away. So my grandmother had this other history, you know, and relationship with this area. She lived in Dolphin's Barn in one of the houses opposite the flats there. And, you know, I never really connected all of those pieces until you and I sat and talked about the Apple Boutique, you know.
I know I've nursed people with HIV or full-blown AIDS, and, you know, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
What do they want the most, you think?
Well, I have one that always told me the wishes before he died, that he wanted to see his daughter making her confirmation, his son making his communion, and take him home. He wanted to go home and die then. He had a fear of black bags, so he says, please tell me you won't let a black bag go near me. And I gave him them promises. So we got him for his daughter's confirmation, took him out Cherry Orchard for his son's communion, and then we couldn't take him home. No one could take him home that weekend because we hadn't got the proper medication. Then we brought him home to his mother, and 13 days, but it was amazing. He never lost conscience for 1 minute. Wanted to know what he was taking, that he didn't want to be out of his head. He wanted to know what was going on and everything. Just said goodbye to everyone that was there, his friends, the whole lot, and just closed his eyes and went. And there was no black bag.
Just
in those days, just for you mean like a body bag?
Body bag,
and
no.
They would put people who were dying of AIDS in bags.
In bags, yes, in bags. So there was no bag put near him.
Good for you.
No
I'm sure there wasn't.
No
I'm sure there's not.
I mean, I remember back then, like, there was 4 deaths in Trower family members, all within 13 weeks. Wow. Couple of weeks between them all, but the last one, it was 3 days, husband and wife. She didn't die from drugs or anything like that. They gave her their own blood in the hospital, and it didn't go around her system. It bust her heart. But I remember her husband at the grave, and his little boy was 2, kept saying, give Mammy your hairbrush, give Mammy your hairbrush, because he loved combing her hair. And he kept saying, I'll give it to her tomorrow, I'll give her tomorrow. Right enough, the next day the man was dead. But, the rumours went around. He hung himself, he stabbed himself, he OD'd. No, the man took a massive heart attack. The man took a massive heart attack. Like the kids lost their mother and father in 3 days.
And what happened then? Did the women of the community that then have to take care of everything?
I took two kids.
Wow.
I took one at 3.5 years of age, and then I got part custody of the little boy. But she always wanted him very, very.
Phyllis, you're my hero.
Jesus.
She liked to. She wanted him to stay very, very, very close. So I made sure of that. The woman that had the young fella, she was an aunt of his. I told her I'd leave a couple of weeks before I'd go and see him to let him settle in. And no sign of him coming down. I'll never forget, it was in the middle of winter, the lash now. I don't drive. So dressed his little sister up and knocked her a door and asked me what was I doing there. I says, I'm here for him. And he ran to me. And I done that for weeks going up, and eventually they got fed up with me. And they start dropping him down. Now don't get me wrong, beautiful stepfather and mother. He couldn't have asked for anything better. They literally idolise him.
Amazing.
You know, but my job was to keep them children together.
Yeah.
So they're still great friends. They go everywhere together. He'll ring her and he'll say to her, I'm going down to the salt mines, do you want to come, sis? And the two of them are brilliant together. Like, they're growing up now, they have children of their own. But that connection, and I'm proud I done that. I gave her a wish that she wanted.
And I'm getting shivers hearing all these stories because normally when we talk about HIV or AIDS related deaths, people just think they're numbers. You know, you say, hundreds of people died, but like with each quilt, with each person you know, that everyone has a story and the loss and the grief.
What we used to do with the friends, remember friends, because I'm well known in the area and I'd know who was after dying, I'd collect all the names. And we used to read them all out at the service. But it got so heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, to listen to one family and there's 6, 7 of them gone, 4 of them gone, and it was just horrific just listening. So there about 3 years ago we decided not to call them out because it is upsetting, and it was hard for us to read them because we would have known most of them that come into the centre. You know what I mean? Most of the kids in the area, like I would have grew up with them, you know, and then their fathers, and there's nothing worse than seeing a father and a daughter and a son sitting waiting to go in and see their doctor. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. But as I always said, I remember going to a conference out in UCD once with my mother. There was a fellow worked, Brogan Whitney was his name, asked me to do it. And Brogan was brilliant. And I went out with my mother. Now, my mother hadn't got a clue. She wouldn't know what a drug looked like. She didn't even know what HIV meant. A very humble woman. And I remember going out, and there was all doctors and nurses and whatever. And the questions they asked me, it was unreal. From getting it off a toothbrush to getting off the cups to saliva to everything. I actually stood and said to Brogan, you're actually winding me up. These are professional people and they're asking me these stupid questions. I says, I have no education in this. All I have is life skills. And what you are saying is I go and get educated, and I got up and walked out of it. I just said, Mum, come on, we're going. Oh, it was crazy how ignorant most people were.
Yeah, we expect doctors to, or healthcare professionals
Yes.
to know, but they can be probably some of the most stigmatizing people living with HIV can meet if they
Yeah.
do bring that
Well, I used to do
ignorance.
outreach to Cherry Orchard a lot to a lot of the clients. Some of them very sick and they'd be in the bed. And Sister Trish that run that was absolutely an angel on earth she was. But you'd see some of the nurses and they'd only ask to be lifted and they're going to get in the gloves, and I used to drive me mad. I used to say, it's okay, I'll do it. And I'd just get in behind the bed and lift them up, and give them a hug and give them a kiss before I leave. And you don't know how much that meant to them.
Yeah,
Of course.
You know what I mean?
of course.
You don't know how much.
You're
And I've
humanising them
always
again.
been, up to today, if I go into the drug team and someone will come in, the first thing they do is give me a hug and kiss.
Mm.
Because I've always been like that.
Uh-huh.
What I learned from drugs, living with HIV and all, it's life skills I've learned from all the community and the other areas in the community.
And a huge amount of compassion for people,
Oh,
right? Mm.
It's a job that I just fell in love with. I just love seeing someone that does well, smiles, little hug. I had someone there a couple of weeks ago and I don't know what the girl's going through or anything. But I gave her a hug. She was upset. I gave her a hug and she came back last week and she says to me, it's the first time I felt human in a long time. She says, the greeting and the hug you gave me.
A little bit of connection can mean so much. It's so important.
I had this gay fella. He's absolutely
no.
gorgeous.
Oh God, you poor thing.
No, he was gorgeous.
Oh,
And
not
I do
another one.
acupuncture.
Uh-huh.
And he asked for acupuncture and I gave it to him. And I left him there for 45 minutes before he seen his counsellor. And I went in and he went, oh my Jesus. I never thought a woman would make me feel so good. I thought it was hilarious. Beautiful.
You'll be turning them next,
Oh
Felix.
yeah. Before we let you go, you are obviously a really wise woman with lots of lived experience, and you mentioned there about addiction, and everyone has experienced addiction in their families,
Oh,
or
I do,
like
I do.
everyone has, but yet they're still pervasive of it's our business. It's no one else to know. That shame can be still there, and for HIV, and there's lots of.
That stigma is still there.
And I always feel that a lot of the hardship of addiction in families can often lay on the mother, or it could be the mother too. And do you know, and they can feel lots of shame and pressure, and they don't know how to get help. So, and we know many people listen to this podcast, especially the moms. Is there any kind of advice you can give people who feel that they need to reach out, or where to reach out, or what's the best thing to do?
Well, if they're in an area that is a community centre and any groups going on or anything like that, don't shy away. Go in. And if you need to speak to someone, whether it be someone that you trust or anything, talk. Because talking is good.
Yeah.
And if they want to cry, cry. There's no shame in that.
Thank you. Can't stop it. Every episode now.
Quite literally every episode.
No, so I'd
That's true.
advise them, don't sit
Yeah.
on your own, in your thoughts. Go and speak to someone.
Yeah.
Whether it be a family member, whether it be a friend. If they don't want to go to a professional route, go and speak to a family member, friends or something. It really does help.
So Friends Remembering Friends, 12 o'clock, Thursday, 27th of November.
Yes,
We'll see you there. Thank you, Phyllis.
I will indeed.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, we've got another trick up our sleeve. A bambino fresh off the Camino. It's my friend Catherine. Catherine, you are one of the women from the quilt group in Rialto.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get involved?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Camino because I did the Camino a couple of years ago and a lot of doors opened for me. I was going through a bad patch at the time. My partner had died suddenly 2 years prior to that. And I did the Camino, and as I said, doors started to open. I worked in Rialto a long time ago in the 90s. And Tony McCarthy, who you know, had organised the Camino. And Tony was suggesting to me maybe I go to the quilt group. And I was kind of saying, oh yeah, the quilt group. I did know about the quilt group from my time when I worked there, because at that time, like, the centre there was loads of people coming in and out, and I was working with a lot of the teenagers, like doing family support really, and I'm getting a bit stuttery now.
No, don't worry. All good.
Yeah, I can remember the women coming into the quilt group and
Uh-huh.
hearing about the quilt group, and I would have known some of them women, you know, and we would have talked outside, because it was all very, very informal at that stage, and people just come in and they sat, and we'd be drinking tea and we'd be talking and we'd be laughing, and I just felt, for me, because I had been affected by addiction as well. I came from, you know, my son was an addict, one of my sons, and I was very badly affected by that. And, you know, a lot of his friends died as well. Not through AIDS, but drug addiction. And it was like kind of always waiting, is he going to be the next one? And I suppose you spoke about the stigma as well. You know, I really suffered that stigma, you know, and I felt, you know, when I was in Rialto working there and meeting all these people and how open they were as well, you know, talking about things, I really connected. You know, I was one of them. I wasn't working. I didn't feel like a worker. And because there is an awful shame attached to addiction. And I suppose being the mother of an addict, you know, and you're saying, God, we tried everything, and, you know, I did everything, and, you know, and you still feel that shame, and you feel that sense of guilt as well. You know, could have not have done enough. And
Do
then
you
I
feel like that shame is something that society puts on mothers and addicts? Do you think
I
that's
do.
where the shame
I
comes
think
from?
there's a, you know, it's not very safe in some places.
Yeah.
You know, and I've worked I've worked out in the corporate section as well. And I mean, there's no way out there I was going to say that my son was an addict.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if I got to know somebody on a one-to-one basis and they shared something with me, but you do carry that shame. And I think it is put on you.
Yeah.
Because people always thought the addicts, and they're going around and they're robbing and they're doing this and they're doing the other, and I know what goes with it. And I mean, there was criminal activity involved as well in his case, and, you know, we would have guards up to the house, and, you know, I'd never experienced that before. And I found that really tough. And particularly, like, I remember he had to go to court, and me going to the court, and the way they looked at you, like you're the mother, and, you know, we were the broken home as well, you know, so that really, we were really like, but I think, I suppose, you know, when you meet people in the same situation as yourself, you know, and that understand, that's very important.
Yeah.
You know, I did, because my marriage broke up years and years ago, and that was through alcoholism. So I had a lot of experience around addictions.
You're supposed to say mine, not his.
No, his. No, his. It was his. But I actually went for, I did go for a lot of outside help as well. I went for a lot of counselling, and I went Al-Anon. And I still go to Al-Anon today.
Great.
And that's like a 12-step program. And for me, I suppose, now I go, I mean, I don't live with the alcoholic, I don't live with the addict.
Yeah.
But I always say I've been very badly affected.
Yeah.
And it does affect you.
Of course.
You know, I mean, you can be crazier than them at times, because you're trying to fix everything and trying to sort everything.
Yeah, because they also sometimes are not taking responsibility, whereas you don't have the option a lot of the time to just turn off all your feelings. I think it's really problematic as well that the fact that people are shamed for using drugs just makes it all so much more dangerous for them. They've got to keep secrets. They've got to, you know, put themselves in dangerous situations and all of that stuff. So it's shame on both sides. It's blame the parents and shame the parents and then shame the addict. But what is actually driving the problem? You know, it's a bigger problem, I think, a lot of the time. Can be a sickness or an illness, but also it's a lot of societal stuff as well. There's abuse and trauma and things that make people want to use drugs, you know, as medicine, I guess. Yeah, you know more than me.
I think that's like for a mother even of an addict, like Al-Anon does help me with that. Because it's a safe environment. you know, and everyone that's there has been affected through addictions of all sorts,
Yeah.
you know. So, and I think the identification as well, you know, is great. But the quilt group then is another thing.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, it was 3 years ago, I think I joined in, as I said to you.
I'm the
from-
newest member, by the
No,
way.
Yeah, recommended.
It was you, but now it's me.
Recommended, as I said, through the Camino. But I just feel privileged to be there. I really do feel privileged to be there. And, you know, I think as Terry said, you're looking at these quilts and you're looking at the stitches and like that these people, you know, there's something poignant about it all, you know, and it can be actually emotional
Yeah.
to look at the quilts and you see the names. And I do recognise some of those names. So I think for me, like why I'm there now is to carry it on.
Yeah.
It's very important to carry this on.
How do we carry it on, do you think? I've been asking myself that too. What is next, you know?
That's a hard question.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah, it is hard. It is
Yeah.
hard. How do we carry it on?
Yeah.
I suppose.
Or where do we put it where it can really be appreciated and celebrated? you know? I sometimes talk about our podcast as being, in its own way, a quilt for this time, because each episode represents a group or a family or a person's story, and we're blessed, privileged not to be dying of HIV/AIDS in this part of the world in any great numbers, but we still need some kind of communal art project that we can all do together, and I think somehow the podcast is kind of filling that role now. But I would really love to see the quilt group grow again, and you know, and see more people support communal arts. Really,
I also think it's important to know that in 2023, like 9 people lost their lives to AIDS in Ireland. So there are still people every year losing their life, and that's not including people who may have lost life to suicide potentially, or self-harm, or overdosing on drugs due to shame and stigma. That's not captured in the statistics. So not only is there a need to continue on with the kind of legacy of the quilt, but to recognise that it's a living memory, that things are still happening, and that support in all its capacity, whether it's possible. I've tried with a quilt group and need to be there.
I kind of wonder as well if through hanging out with you all, and learning a lot from you guys, I'm aware that there's other groups, similar drug rehabilitation or drug support groups around the city, where women like us of our age have stories like ours. And I wonder about not only getting to talk to them and hear more about their families, their community, their losses, but if there's a way forward for the quilt group to celebrate the stories that never got told before because of shame and stigma. Talk about people like my cousin Ivana. I only found out that she died of AIDS a couple of years ago. I think there's a lot of other people like that too. And I think there might be a new need for the quilt, a new way to do it. And that's just, I guess, ruminating with me. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, I think as well. And it's like, it's community.
Yeah.
And it's talking.
Yeah.
The talking. And talking, and it releases the shame,
Yeah.
you know, because that's what we need to,
Yeah.
you know, we need to deal with.
Some of the stories that come up in the group, like the Christmas trees with red ribbons, that one of the children called an AIDS tree. You know, these stories, I think, if we don't talk about them, you know, the HIV history, I guess, of Dublin, it's there. And it should be at least spoken about, if not recorded. You know.
Yep. And Catherine, before we came on, we were also talking about hepatitis C, and I think that also definitely needs to be talked about when we talk about addiction specifically. That also really, really ripe through a lot of inner city Dublin too, whether it's through blood transfusions or addiction, or and the interferon treatment was so hard and so harsh on families, and there's still a huge stigma, and sometimes there's co-infection from HIV, and it still is today. So I think there's also stories for people to be with the quilt group to talk about. Maybe it's not HIV, but maybe it could be hepatitis as well, because there's a kinship there between diseases too. The good news is with hepatitis C now there's a cure. It's just 12 weeks of treatment. There's no side effects, and you're completely cured. And it's free as well here in Ireland, so we're very lucky. But again, these stories of what happened when we didn't have the cure still need to be told through these mediums.
Before you go, you have a gay son. You can't be hanging out.
What's
with
his
us.
name? You're hiding him on us.
You can't be keeping him from us.
very
He's a
you know.
psychotherapist. Does he do
I'm very,
vouchers?
very proud of him.
Tell us, is he single
He is single. He is single at the moment, yeah.
at the moment?
And he's very good looking.
I know that.
Oh, I well imagine.
off
I think
the
you
old
met him,
block.
didn't
Mother
you?
like you.
Yeah, yeah.
And he is also someone who works with community, right?
Yeah, he's qualified now as psychotherapist and counsellor.
Amazing.
And I'm very proud of him.
Oh, you must be, and obviously
Yeah,
you get this
and it's been a
caring
long road
nature
for
from you.
him. A long, long road.
And he has his own practice, or
No, he's working now at the moment with a cord.
okay,
Yeah,
Accord, if you want
yeah.
to find him.
They've become very diverse.
Uh-huh.
And he does a little bit, he was doing a little bit with Rainbow Minds.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, great. Anyways, we have to connect as well.
Yeah. So
Great,
he's
well,
out
tell
there.
him we were asking for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with the quilt group, you can get in touch with the Rialto Community Drugs Team website, and all of the details are on there. And we'll see you very soon.
Yes.
Please join us for our World AIDS Day Festival, first in the world of its kind. Until then,
Stay powerful.
and stay positive.
Yay!
Thank you so much for listening to Pause Vibe Podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, show us you care by leaving a review wherever you listen. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Pause Vibe Podcast for all the latest news and updates.